So this one has 5 stars, which is really good. For the month, it's budgeted at $273. Nice.
What's up, people? Hola, hola, mi gente. ¿Qué pasa? Y bienvenidos de nuevo a mi canal. If you're new here, what is up? Welcome. My name is Ariana, and I'm a digital nomad documenting my journey as I travel around the world. So today, I wanted to share with you guys an inside peek into my planning process that I do before I travel to a new country. In a recent video, I shared with you all how I'm planning to go to Vietnam in 2025 and going there to teach English and essentially try to settle down and live there for the year. A big reasoning for that is because I feel like that's just the next place I'm being called to go, and that teaching English there just kind of aligns with what I need to do in this moment. But another big driving force behind it is finances, right? I have been really living on an inconsistent income the last 2 years since I got laid off. So teaching in Vietnam would provide me with the stability that I am craving since I have been traveling these last couple of years. It will also provide me with a steady, reliable source of income by teaching, and it'll put me in a better position because I will be in a city with a lower cost of living. So I will be able to finally tackle this $10,000 in credit card debt that I have racked up over the last couple of years. This is something that is a high priority goal for me next year because I do not like having debt. I do not like it at all. Prior to getting laid off, I was this close to being debt free, like this close. I had already paid off all my credit card debt because leaving the States had offered me the opportunity to have a more affordable cost of living. So even though I was traveling, I was able to save a lot and really tackle that. So my next goal was to pay off my student loan debt, which was around like $5K. And so right when I got laid off, it kind of, it shifted things. And so yeah, went from no credit card debt to $10K in credit card debt, which I know isn't the worst in the world, especially over 2 years. Like I've heard people say like that's not bad at all. But nonetheless, it's still debt, and I hate having debt. So my goal next year is to knock that out. And by going to Vietnam, it would definitely put me in a position to be able to do that, especially with this teaching role. So today I am going to show you guys my process behind how I'm planning this trip and planning it in a way that I can predict what my living expenses are going to be and help me to come up with a realistic goal, a tangible goal for getting this debt paid off. Ideally, I would like to get it paid off in 6 to 8 months. Whether or not that's too ambitious, we will see. But it all starts out by figuring out what my cost of living is going to be per month. So yeah, I'm going to show you guys the process of how I start planning for a trip. This is typically what I do for any trip, but I thought it'd be really cool to do it for this one since I have a specific financial goal tied to it. So let's get into it.
All right, so now that I have a destination in mind, one of the first things that I do is look up flights. I don't always book flights immediately. A lot of times I will just go to get an estimate of what flights would cost. And then I set flight alerts and kind of just monitor from there. So here I am on Google Flights. This is what I normally use. I don't always book through Google Flights. I've actually heard it's a lot better to book directly through the airline site. But I do use Google Flights to find flights or find the airlines that I want to find a flight from. So since I know I'm going to be traveling to Vietnam from home, which for me is Raleigh, I set a one-way and set up Raleigh, and I know I want to go to Ho Chi Minh City. Actually, no, for this, I decided I want to go to Da Nang first. I want to go there first and spend about a month there because I know I'm going to be leaving the States around early January, and I don't really need to be in Ho Chi Minh City until like around February, mid-February. And I kind of talked about this in my video talking about going to move to Vietnam to teach English. But essentially, they don't start hiring teachers until after the Lunar New Year, which this year I think is around the beginning of February. So I don't need to be in the city until later in February. So yeah, I am going to Da Nang first. I'm going to hang out there, finish my teaching certification, and spend some time on the beach before I get to the city. So I'm going to look for flights from Raleigh to Da Nang, and my flight date, I really kind of am flexible. I'm really just looking for like whatever is the cheapest option. So in this case, it looks like Sunday would be best for that. So we'll search flights there. So this is a plugin called Points Path that I've added to my browser. And essentially what it does is work with Google Flights to figure out if certain flights that are offered here can be paid for with miles. So in this case, it's showing not available because there aren't any miles that could be paired with this. Because I think they only work with specific airlines to do this anyway. But because a lot of these flights are split across different airlines, it doesn't look like there's any flights that I'll be able to pay with points. But if you are a big points person and you are flying somewhere that offers flights through the same airline, like if you know you're flying with Delta all the way through, this can be a really good option to make sure your points can be used with that. So yeah, that's what that is there. But we see here the cheapest flight would be leaving out on Sunday, January 5th. Yeah, and it's got a couple stops, essentially flying to Seattle, and then flying to Taiwan, and then getting to Da Nang. Nah, I don't really love the idea of that. That is definitely a super long travel day. Let's see what we have over here. We've got the cheapest. Okay, so the same thing. Yeah, I'm not super feeling that. So honestly, I can go down a wormhole when it comes to searching for flights because I will start to explore my options because I don't like long travel days. I don't like traveling for multiple days at a time. That does not sound fun to me. So what I would do is instead of flying straight or looking for flights straight to Da Nang, I might look at, okay, what is Bangkok? What if I stop in Bangkok first? What are my options there? Okay, looks like the flights on Saturday are a little bit cheaper, which is surprising that it's cheaper on the weekend. Usually during the week is when it's cheapest. So yeah, same thing. This is going to be a long flight regardless because it's going to it's going to Asia. But yeah, I'll just play around and explore different destinations. I'll also do the feature that Google Flights has, which is where you can go to anywhere. Leaving out of Raleigh on Saturday, January 4th. I'm actually going to look for the 3rd because, like I said, usually flights during the week are a little bit more affordable. But from here, I could search and see if there is anywhere that I could go that might be a little bit more affordable or make getting there a little bit more enjoyable, meaning like I can make a stop in the middle of getting to Asia instead of just going all the way through. This is pretty good. You can get to Lisbon for $483. And let's see if there's anywhere in Asia that I can fly to that might be a little bit cheaper than the 800 price we were looking at. Not really.
Editing Ari here, checking in. My computer started freaking out and pretty much stopped recording after that. So essentially, I continued doing searches, checking different destinations and departure cities to see if I could find a more reasonable flight price. Long story short, I didn't. A lot of the flights were either just as long with not as ideal layovers or about the same price. Essentially, I just turned on my flight alerts and just waited to see. A couple days later, I got an alert and saw that there was a flight for around $780, $790, and I ended up booking my flight through Alaska Airlines, which was also connected with Starlink Airlines, and the total came to $825. So similar to the prices that I was seeing when I was doing my search, but I really liked the flight that I booked because it has a layover in Taiwan. And so I will be stopping in Taiwan. It's a 10-hour layover, which will allow me to get out and explore. The Taiwan airport actually offers free layover tours, which I thought was really neat. So I'll get to do that and essentially check another country off my bucket list while on my way to Vietnam, which for an $800 flight,
I think is getting the best bang for my buck. Some other tips to note about booking flights. I also will book flights through my credit card, use credit card points. I've gotten a lot of flights either discounted or completely free by using credit card points. So that's something to look into. Recently, I've also seen that booking.com also offers flights. So that's another option to look into, though be careful because they're technically a third party that you'll be booking through. But when I was in Asia, I did book through them. I didn't have any issues, and it ended up being reasonably cheaper than going through Google Flights or another airline. And lastly, if you're booking with an airline that you're not familiar with, it's always good to do due diligence on that airline. So Reddit is always my go-to for finding real human reviews on different companies. I'll go to Reddit with the name of the airline. In this case, it was Starlux because I was not familiar with that airline at all. And it turns out they have pretty good reviews, but I found that Reddit, the people there, they speak the truth. They will let you know if it's a good experience or bad experience. Reddit is usually more transparent and very honest, and coming from real people. So that's a good thing to note when you're looking for different airlines and different flights. So yeah, let's hop back into the video.
Okay, so now that my flights are set up and I have an idea for about how much it'll cost to get there, my next focus is Airbnbs. Figuring out what the cost of my Airbnb will be. I know that I looked up flights to Da Nang, but since the goal of this video is to figure out my living expenses for the month in Ho Chi Minh City, I'm going to look there because I want to see about how much accommodations cost. I would be looking at getting there probably the 1st of February and checking out. We're looking for a month, so we'll do February 1st to March 1st. And then it's just me solo traveling. This is really just me filling it out just to get an estimate for the cost of accommodations. Ideally, I would only be booking through Airbnb for this first month that I'm there. Once I can apply to jobs and get something secured, I likely will be looking in a different area depending on what school I'm going to be teaching at. I also plan on finding accommodations off of Airbnb because Airbnb's prices are usually a lot more inflated than what I can probably find by booking directly with a landlord.
So just to give you guys an idea of what I mean, this is the place that I ended up booking for my stay in Da Nang. It has great lighting, met all my qualifications, and was located in a really good location, as well as had really good ratings and reviews. It was listed on Airbnb for $810, and that's before taxes, with $100 of that being the Airbnb service fee. So I came across another site, again, using Reddit, called Agoda, and it is basically like Airbnb, but for Asia. And I saw that they had the exact same listing, the exact same apartment. It even had just as great reviews and ratings as it did on Airbnb. It was priced at $390 with taxes and everything else included. And it also was a risk-free booking because I was able to book it now and pay for it later. So that's just an example of what I mean with Airbnb's prices being really inflated and why I don't plan to use them. They won't be my first pick when it comes to picking accommodations while I'm in Vietnam or any other place in Asia.
It looks like a lot of these places are ranging from like 400 to 500. You dig in deeper, they can get pricey, but a lot of them I'm seeing around the 400, 300 range. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so this one has 5 stars, which is really good. For the month, it's budgeted at $273. Nice. Ooh, already it's giving yes. This is really nice. Little like living room entertainment setup. Okay, so this would be like the living room area. There's an upstairs. Okay. So I think there's no oven, but I think that's pretty standard for Asia. I do really like the lighting in this apartment, and it definitely has a stovetop that's built in. It's not all apartments. That's good. A little space, dining space. Okay, there's a desk in the bedroom. Not my preference because I like to get out of my bedroom when I'm working and I get more motivated, but I'm not too worried about that being in Vietnam because I know there's a ton of cafes that I could probably work from. But overall, this is looking really nice. It's super modern, sleek looking, got some outdoor lighting, which is always nice. It's definitely modern. It's super cute for $300 a month. Not bad at all. I also like to look through the different amenities that they offer.
sound system. That's cool. Air conditioning. Very important. Very, very important. They do offer cooking basics. I always look for this when looking for a long-term stay. And also this as well. Um, Blender. Yes. Need a blender. Of course, a rice maker. Such a like Asian amenity. Okay, so there is no washer and no dryer. There's also no essentials. That means things like toilet paper, uh, hand soap, cleaning supplies. Those are all things that I would need to buy. So that's just good to know. Not a super big deal, and definitely not a deal breaker, but something that's good to know before purchasing or agreeing to stay somewhere for a month. And then the last thing I look at when looking at an Airbnb, the reviews. Okay, people say they wish they could have stayed longer, had a wonderful stay, spotless and clean and super comfortable. The host was supportive. It felt like home. That is a good review there. So these are awesome. This dude is on here twice. So clearly he stayed for a few months the first time. I would recommend for someone looking for a cozy home. So those are great reviews. Something I definitely like to see, especially when booking long term. This is going to sound so bad, but one thing I do know is that all of these reviews are written by guys. Which might be a little sexist on my part, but I have realized that for guys, a 5-star review, and for women, a 5-star review is a little bit different. So it's something to just take into consideration. I don't know much about the area, so that would be, if I would be looking to seriously book this location, that's something I would look at next, is figuring out what area this is in and seeing what reviews people have. In regards to being a nomad, the different kind of cafes there, where grocery stores are, what type of gyms are around. That's what I would look at next. But this guy's a super host. It looks like he's a very good host. And he also speaks English as well, so that's helpful. Cool. Okay, so those are the type of things that I look for with an Airbnb. If I was looking to book this specific one or thinking about it, I would save it. Oops. I'm not logged in. What? Airbnb? I actually have already saved a few that I was looking at that looked interesting. This one stood out to me because it has a lot of natural lighting, and I liked what it had to offer. It's about 500 or 561 after taxes. But after seeing that other one for 300, I might have to reconsider. Anyways, when I find Airbnbs that interest me or that I would want to keep an eye on, I make a wish list. So here you can see I have my Ho Chi Minh City 2025 wish list, and some different places that I was looking at. Again, these are really up in the air places right now, as I don't know what area of the city I want to be in. I need to do a little bit more research about the different areas, figure out what would be best for me for that first month that I'm going to be there. And then, of course, this is just going to be for that 1 month stay. Once I figure out where my school is going to be based, ideally I would move to a district that's closer. But now that I know how much things are, it's looking like a lot of the things that stood out to me that I liked are 500 and below. So what I'm going to do now is open up my Notion. I love Notion. It's what I use to plan out my life, literally. So here I started laying out some costs to consider when planning out my trip to Ho Chi Minh City. So as I kind of figure out estimates, just writing them in here. So I'm going to put 500 for here and set that as my budget. I feel like that'll be realistic, and hopefully this will be on the high end, since I did see some that are a little bit lower than that. So other costs to figure out so that I can figure out how much I'll be spending for the month would be food, transportation, a gym, tourism, nightlife, shopping, and then doing some estimates for those other miscellaneous things to account for the month, such as my phone plan, the SIM card that I get, laundry if it's not included with my Airbnb, my visa, getting into the country, and different things like that. So all of that I just put as TBD because I really don't have any idea. But I don't feel like the miscellaneous expenses will surpass anything that I estimate for these other expenses, because I like to do estimations that are a little bit more inflated to give me that wiggle room. So hopefully everything that will be under this miscellaneous cost will kind of be buffered into my inflated cost for these other ones here. So to figure out how much food, transportation, gym, nightlife, tourism, all that will be, I usually go to Reddit or YouTube to get reviews from other people who have been there and can give me a better idea of how much things cost. So I will hop over to Reddit and basically look up Vietnam food costs. Actually, that's not even specific enough. I'm gonna look up Ho Chi Minh. So, how much does it cost to get food in Ho Chi Minh? So, a lot of people are saying eating in District 1 is a mistake if you're on a budget. D4 is more affordable. So that's something I might keep in mind when, like I said, I needed to look at the different districts. So if I know that I want to stick to a specific budget, I might look for accommodations that are in District 4, just because I know I can find more affordable food nearby as well. Just something to keep in mind. Again, this is why Reddit is so helpful, because even information I don't know that I'm looking for, I'll find. Someone also mentioned don't forget to cost in travel expenses too. So a round trip from District 1 to District 4 can easily be like 30 to 40K on a Grab bike each way. Good to know, because I usually do take Grab, or I usually do take a bike to get around. That's usually my preferred way. If you guys watch my other vlogs, you know I love hopping on a moto. But for more context, 30 to 40K is in Dong, the Vietnamese currency. So I'm going to go ahead and use my currency converter and see how much 40K is. Okay, so that's like $1.50 on the high end each way. So you calculate that like a $3 trip in order to go get food and then go back. So that's just really good to know, factoring in those other costs. You can't expect to be paying $2 to $3 at a fine dining restaurant. Okay, so if you want to eat fancy, obviously you're going to be paying a little bit more. And I actually watched a YouTube video recently where someone mentioned how much they were paying at more expensive restaurants. And those were looking around like the $10 to $12 range. Okay, so restaurants that have an English menu tend to be a little bit more expensive. All right, cheap staples are about $120. Someone estimated 200 to 300K per day, which is about $12 a day. Okay, and that's just someone throwing out like a random number. This definitely all depends on how someone eats. I personally do a lot of grocery shopping, and then I'll eat out when I'm feeling lazy. To be honest, if I don't feel like cooking or if I don't have things meal prepped, that's when I will go order out or go out to eat. So someone's saying 120 per day, which I would estimate around like $5. Yeah, about $5. And then the nicer Vietnamese restaurants, about $20 on the max. Western restaurants, ooh, that seems a little inflated. 1, 2, 3. Seems a little bit ridiculous, but okay. Can get up to like 20-ish plus dollars, depending on where you are. Someone says they spend around $8 to $15 on food and beverages per day, but they're a splurger. Okay, this was 2 years ago, so give or take that with a grain of salt. So I did do some research on this already, just factoring in the fact that I do a lot of grocery shopping, and I do occasionally eat out. And I don't mind eating Vietnamese food, at least in the beginning. So I think I would be able to keep my food budget around $250. Again, I'm inflating this. I do think it would be under that, especially once I can get a feel for the area, know which grocery stores have like the best prices, and yeah, get a feel for that. So I'm not gonna go through all the research process, because again, this will take you down a wormhole. It does take a little bit of time, but through a compilation of just watching different YouTube videos, I've seen a girl who lives out there. She's teaching she's an English teacher as well, and she talked about how much groceries are. She did a vlog of like going to a grocery store, buying different things, and just based off of the vlogs that I've seen. The research that I've done off of Reddit and different sources on Google, and even using ChatGPT for a little bit of things, I was able to come up with some estimates for all of these. So we've got $500 for the Airbnb, $250 per month for food. For transportation, I did around $40. This just all depends on how frequently I'm going out. With the Grab bikes being around like, $1 or $2. And that being my preferred method for getting around, I'm estimating that it may get up to $40. But again, I'm trying to overestimate for what I think the cost would really be. just to give me some wiggle room. Some research on gyms per month. It looked like $30 was about an average on the higher end. So gonna look for that. And then tourism, nightlife, shopping. Honestly, because I'm so focused on paying off debt, I think I would try to keep this to a minimum. And two, because I will be in Vietnam for the year or at least 6 to 8 months, I don't plan on doing a whole bunch of tourism when I first get there. Or if I do, when I am going out and doing the touristy stuff, it'll probably be spread over time. So I don't plan to spend like a ton of money on this category in a particular month. Ideally, if I do go a month and it's like I don't really spend much on any of this, I can just move this $30 over to the next month, carry it over. So it might be like $60 that I have on one month and like nothing that I'm spending on another. So yeah. So all in all, I'm estimating about $850 per month for my cost of living in Ho Chi Minh City. Now down here, you can see the estimated salary range. So with the program that I'm doing, Ninja Teacher is who I'm getting my TEFL certification through. And they shared with me that a lot of their teachers typically make between $1,400 to $2,000 per month on their teacher salary. So I'm going to use this to estimate how long it might take me to reach my goal, with my cost of living being around $850 per month. Okay, so these are the estimates that I came up with. So with me getting paid on the lower end of the spectrum, which is $1,400 per month or 360K Vietnamese dong per hour, it would take me 1 year and 5 months to repay my $10,000 in debt if I'm putting $600 a month towards the debt, and my cost of living is at $850 or below. Don't like the sound of that at all. So I went back and estimated how long or how much I would need to repay per month in order to do it in 8 and 6 months. Again, this is on the low spectrum of what I could be earning. Obviously, if that's the offer, I'm trying to negotiate much higher because this is a lot to do per month and it's way too long. Like ideally, I want to be doing 6 months or less. But with my expenses being $850 per month and getting paid $1,400 per month, I would need to bring in some other source of income in order to make my goal in 8 months or 6 months. At this budget and at this salary, I would essentially have $550 left over to put towards debt. And if I was aiming for this 8-month goal, I would need to bring in extra income of $650 from somewhere. A bit of a reach. A bit of a reach. That tells me I really need to aim for a much higher salary than this minimum here. And I honestly don't think it's going to be that difficult. One, because I am a native English speaker, that tends to give you more of an advantage to negotiate for higher salaries. But two, I also have background in teaching not only English but also Spanish. So hopefully that will give me some negotiating power when it comes to my salary. So looking at a more higher per month rate at $2,000 per month, and if we take out living expenses of $850, that leaves me with around $1,150 per month to put towards debt, which is awesome because that means we can pay it down a lot faster. So ideally, I would be able to reach my goal within 8 months. If I want to speed that up and do it in the 6-month time frame, I would need to figure out a way to bring in another $550, which I feel like could be doable. It depends. My other sources of income will be coming from content creation, YouTube, selling my travel guides, different things like that. Also freelance. I could be doing freelance as well. And the great thing about this TEFL certification is that I can also use it to do online teaching. So if I'm really, really determined to reach this goal in the 6-month time frame that I'm aiming for, I know that I have other options to bring in other means of income. I could be teaching online as well as teaching in person. I know that when I go into the interview process, I really need to be aiming to get this higher salary, if not more. So negotiating for as high of a salary as I can get. And I also want to make sure that I'm getting a decent amount of hours because some of these jobs aren't necessarily full-time. And so the hours could be 20 hours per week as opposed to like 30 hours per week, which would obviously affect how much I would be making. And then, of course, there's also the fallback. If the extra income that I'm bringing in still isn't helping me meet my mark, I could dial back on these living expenses somehow, if that means just finding a cheaper Airbnb, which ideally is already the goal, right? Getting there. I said I'm not going to book through Airbnb. I'm going to look for a place that's a bit cheaper. So maybe cutting off a couple hundred there, maybe eating more Vietnamese food and grocery shopping less, or going to restaurants less, staying in the house more, different things like that. So there is a lot of wiggle room here for me to hit this budget, or for me to hit my goal. Which I like. I like that there are options.
Okay, so yes, that is an overview of how I plan out trips, the thought process that I go through, and also what I'm looking at in terms of my budget for Vietnam, how much I'm planning on spending per month, and how I plan on achieving this goal of paying off 10K in debt in hopefully 6 months or less. So this is just the beginning of the journey. I definitely plan on bringing you guys along and showing you each month like what my actual living expenses are and if I achieve this goal of mine. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already so you can follow along this journey with me. Share it with someone who may be thinking about leaving the States and possibly living in Vietnam. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about some of these cost estimates and my overall goal for next year. And also if there's anything that you are interested in seeing once I get to Vietnam. Thanks as always for watching this video through to the end, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Ciao.